Welcome back to Live for Love TV. Today is the 9th day of the first month of the 23rd year inside the 21st century. Hope everyone's doing well out there. Today we're going to talk about love. The name of this channel is Live for Love TV, so obviously we're never going to stray too far away for the theme of why this channel was put on. We're going to talk about love today. But first we have to do, before we get any deeper into talking about love itself, we need to untangle sex from love. We need to untangle the two. Now, that doesn't mean that sexual intercourse cannot come as an outpouring of love, but it's not always the case, as we know. All animals, in order for reproduce, do the same thing men and women do. The exact same thing. You can call it sex, you can call it intercourse, you can call it anything you want. They do exactly the same thing. That's how they reproduce. So we need to entangle, because we really assume that love is a human condition, or a human thing that people believe comes from an external force, or from the higher force, or from God, or from the universe, or whatsoever. But almost everybody talks about love. But in a lot of cultures, and this is not just a culture I'm going to talk about like the culture I come from, but this is true in every culture across the world, that sex is entangled with love in such a way that it's very hard to see who loves who. And people can be with people for years and then realize the person may never have loved them, but the sex was good. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The sex was extremely good, but later on, when they break apart, they realize maybe they've never felt loved by that person, or maybe they themselves never really were in love with the person that they were having sex with, but they thought they were, because the entanglement of sex and love is very, very hard to break apart. Back in the 90s, we had records like Mr. Loverman and Mr. Lover Lover, and, you know, Shaggy, Shabba, you know, all these artists that were coming out in the reggae world, dancehall world. And the same is true in R&B, hip hop. The same is true in every music in the world, rock, everything. But when you really break it down, what they're describing is sex, and they're calling it love. So when a man says he's a great lover man, he's talking about he's great in bed. His sex is good. Yeah? He might run things. You understand? He's running things. But he's not really talking about the love that me and you were talking about, because that love runs completely different. Because when, for instance, Bob Marley talked about one love, he wasn't talking about sex. When the Bible talks about, let's say, love in the New Testament, where it speaks a lot about love, it's not talking about sex. When people say love yourself first, they're not saying have sex with yourself first. This is not what they're talking about. In fact, people seem to think that the love that you have between a man and a woman is different than the love that you would have between, let's say, your mother and your father, and love between you and your child, or love between you and your sister. There's always a differentiation between those love, because people get confused between that and say, well, they're talking about intimate love. But all love is intimate. There's no such thing as a love that's not intimate. If it's love, it's intimate. That's what it's the only thing it can be. So the confusion is there, and many of us have grown up and we've been given this confusion. It doesn't matter what it's this culture I'm talking about or any other culture. People consider sex to be love, and they say they want to make love to this person, and they sing about it. You know, he's going to make love to his woman, and the woman's going to make love. None of us have the power to make love. Not one of us. I don't, you don't, none of us. We make cars, and we make TVs, fridges, make chairs. We can make lots of things, but we cannot make love. Love is not something you can make. So when you're having sex and talking about you're making love, it's a very bad terminology, because it shows us that we really don't understand what love is. Love is something that is there, and if we have it, we share it. You don't need to. This is the reason why the powerful people who've understood this have never really talked about giving love to just your friends or just your family. They may even say give love to your enemy, and people say, why? Well, it's not that you're giving it to any particular person. It's just like the sun is not shining on just the good people. The sun is shining on the same teeth them were broke into your house last night. Trust me. Every night, every day, the sun shines on everybody. And love is the same way. When you have that love within you, you've got to love everyone, because it's your state. It's not something you're turning on or making or particularly giving. It's just a state you're in. How can you give somebody anything but love if you are love? You don't have anything else to give. So the Creator, if you believe in the Creator or the universe or whatever you want to call it, it gives us its love, just like the sun gives us its light. Because that's what it has to give. It doesn't have anything else. There is nothing else. So sex, for those people who still get tied up in this sexual relationship, and this is why people, I mean, in the old days, people tried different understandings, and people say, well, you shouldn't have sex until you're married and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a cultural way of looking at life. But love is something that once you find a state of love, then all you want to be doing from then on is looking for people to share that love with. That's what you need to do. Find that love inside yourself and then share it. Don't try to make love. Don't try to give love. Giving love, talking about you're going to give somebody love, or you're going to love this, how you love your mother, how you love your sister. That love is twisted, because the minute something goes wrong, you and your mother fall out, it's a whole different story. You and your sister fall out, it's a whole different story. Because that kind of love is a turn on love. It's a kind of love that you think you can give to one and not to the other. That's not the love that the deepest people throughout the history was talking about. And when people say, well, what's love got to do with it, like Tina Turner did, well, that's a very, we know the Tina Turner early story. And when you just give up on love, you could make a statement like, well, love is a second-hand emotion. That's a very sad state to have to live the rest of your life in. That you feel maybe you gave love to somebody and they abused you. Now love means nothing to you. It's just a second-hand emotion. And people sing the song and it's like, it's a good song. I like it. It's a nice song. But it's a very sad way to have to look at life. Love is a state we all need to try and raise our vibration to. And then it's amazing what you get back when you're in that state. You get back what you're giving. You get back what you are. It's like a mirror. It's like you never go in front of a mirror and see somebody else. You always see yourself, who you are. You don't see nobody else. And love is like that. Once you have that love, you just give it, and it comes back, and it comes back, and it comes back, and comes back. So let's get back down to what really the LOVE means, and let's not mix it up with sex. We all know we love sex. We all know sex is a human thing, just like it's with the animal kingdom. It's something that we're programmed in us, that we all love it. And it's great, but let's not get confused when we're talking about sex and love, because that's where all our problems start, and usually where our problems end. Take care. Live for Love TV.
Beat